This video is what we call a Q&A short. It's a question from at the end of a webinar, and then Holly went ahead and explained an answer for the person. This is not related to the topic of the webinar that she was doing, so we broke this out into its own little short Q&A video.
A question from Tammy is, how do you feel about creating a satin border to get a consistent width and then converting it to an area so you can feather it?
We've done that. We've made something like that before. Said make this a satin border and then change the line width to maybe what we would use for an applique, which would be a 2.0. Then bring it up to 400 and use this as your guide for how to do your satin. Now you'll pick a different color and take your satin and use this as your template. We do this for applique all the time when it's a weird shape but we don't like the satin border end result. We do this all the time. And you can practice, and this way you will get that practice of how to make a perfect satin. And do lots of corners and see what happens when you don't get the corner right. You'll quickly remember, oh, I've got to do it this way, I've got to do it that way. Satin stitch is not easy, but I promise you, once you learn it, you will love it. I've had every one of my team members say, oh, I don't like doing satin stitch. And then when they do, they end up beautiful and they love them. They love it.
Well, it's kind of the comments from from Tammy was, she said, because you asked why don't you just want to do satin? She said, because I'm not so good at getting an even satin. And Elaine said, don't want to make a satin because it's hard to get it uniform in thickness.
Yep. Yep.
Yep. Yep.
Anything worth doing is probably hard.
At first.
Once you get it, then it's easy. You know, if any of you have played musical instruments, it's hard. It's hard. If any of you have been in the military, it's hard. If any of you have played on a sports team, all the practices and drills, it's hard. This is no different. There are things that are just hard. And I avoided the satin stitch, the true satin stitch, using that tool for the first 5 or 6 years that I digitized. I would not use it. I don't need it to use it, is what I would say. I don't need it. And I avoided it until I took a lesson and the person showed me the value of the satin tool. I went home and I learned how to use it. And it is now my favorite tool in the software as far as stitch application tools. Learn how to use it. Use the satin border to practice. Here's the other thing. You can't feather edge this, and you have no stitch angles. You can't add stitch direction guidelines. You can't add them. So if you don't like how it looks, too bad. Here you can add them. I can right click on this and I can say add a stitch direction line. Add one there. Add one there. I can click on one and say, take it away. I don't want it. I can move them one way or another. Watch what happens. When we get up close, it looks terrible, but I can do it. See that? How that satin stitch looks now? Looks all wacky because I moved this one. Learn the satin. I'm just going to tell you, learn the satin. You will not be sorry you spent the time on it. Anything else?
Maria said that she does like to create an area from a line sometimes when I
Yeah,
want a specific satin width, but corners can get wonky. I guess that's a good word, wonky.
exactly. And there are places to use it. And see, I would never use the line turning it into a satin border. I would never use it because it was so unreliable and unpredictable. And then my senior group said, "Oh no, I use it for this and I use it for that." And another team member said, "I always use it for this and it always works." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So then I started using that, and yes, there are applications for it, but there are not as many as you would think, and you will be much happier for learning this tool. You could still use the other one, but you'll be much happier for learning how to make a pretty satin because it's so much more versatile and so much easier. So does that help you with travel stitches, with understanding why you would put them in? Wow, that's interesting.
Let's see. Patsy wants to know, can you feather side by side?
Yes. Yes, you can. Here's one. Get down here, hit enter. Now you can put your stitch angles in, hit enter, and you've got a satin. Go here to your feather stitches. Let's just do the green side. Let's do something really out there. How about that and that? Enable a pattern. Let's do this one. There you go. Change your density to anything you want. Play with it. And that's what you get. Yep, absolutely. I like the side-by-side satin tool. The thing you have to remember is, say you have a circle. This is the thing that kind of gets everybody. If you have a circle and you want to do the side-by-side satin tool, you start here, come this way, or go the other way. I don't care which way you go. Now you've got to come and do the other side. A lot of people will come up here and go that way. Don't do that. You won't be happy with your results. You're going to go the same direction. Same direction. Then you put your stitch lines in and you'll get a pretty result. But that's a little more controllable, but it is a true satin. Anything else?
John McGuire says that's why that's why there's adjust with a line and adjust with a curve.
Exactly.
And Laura says, I didn't like it either, but now it's a fun tool to use for so many different applications. So yeah,
There you
you're
go. And I don't make this stuff up.
Patsy wants to know, can you set stitch direction using the side-by-side satin?
Afterwards. Let me do it again. Side 1, enter. Side 2, same direction, enter. Now you draw the lines across. If I do that, it's going to set the stitch direction. When I'm done, I hit enter. Let's pull it up bigger so you can see kind of what a mess that made. And you can see how it's all twisted here. You can see that's because of the stitch angle. We can fix the stitch angle. And if I right click on the gray, we can add more stitch direction. So it has the same properties and abilities as the regular satin. This tool, the side-by-side satin, is awesome for weird shapes because you have more control over exactly where things are going and how to position them. And if you like control like I do, it's a wonderful tool. Now my team's cracking up right now, I'm sure. But The side-by-side is a really nice tool. We didn't used to have that. That came along in one of the versions a while ago, and took me a while to warm up to it, but it's a nice tool now.
I'm looking. I think that's all. Jan says you have to use the same stitch direction for side by side too.
Same stitch direction for side-by-side. See, I went both sides. See what happens. Nope. Doesn't matter. As long as you're going across that satin column, doesn't matter which way you do. I always go from one side to the other because that's just how my brain works. My brain doesn't work back and forth. My brain works here to here, here to here, here to here, in an organized fashion. If you like going back and forth, go back and forth. Doesn't seem to matter.
Jan said she meant you have to. Jan was one that commented about you have to use the same stitch direction for side by side, and she says I meant you have to start at the top of each side.
That's what I said. You have to go in the same direction.
That's what you meant by that. Okay, cool.
You have to go in the same direction. Like I showed you with the circle. If you start up here and come down, you must start up here and come down. Let me show you what happens, because as I said, a picture is worth a gazillion words. Let's do this. Wrong one, sorry. I lied. This one. Okay, now I'm going to start down here. Life is good, right? Everything's good. Life is good. Look what's happening. Not letting me put any kind of stitch direction in other than one. So let's hit enter. That's what happens when you go the wrong direction, when you change the direction. So what I did here was I went this way. Over here I went this way and this way. And I got one stitch direction line only, and it's a mess. So just remember, same direction for both sides. If it's a circle, you're going to go this way and this way. If it's a square, you're going to go this way and then this way. Keep the same direction.
I hope that Q&A video helped. If you need a copy of the software, go to trygenerations.com and we'll send some out to you.